But I think I'm still connected. I should still be connected. All right. Um, I'm going to go through this. Hey, Jay, man, it's been a while. I need to go through a rundown. So if you don't mind sharing, I'm back and it's going to be good. Um, there's a lot going on that I have not been putting on YouTube. I have uploaded everything to TikTok because of algorithms, but then I haven't been going live, circumstances. Um, so here we are, and I'm live, and I gotta give a rundown on what's going on. Things have been amazing. I left the East Coast. I went to the West Coast. Um, as you can see, I am I'm doing things, man. I'm a drummer now. Yeah, I'm a hand drummer. I play on weekends, man. I love it. It's a new hobby, and I'm pretty far out. Good, dude. Um, anyway, so I am glad to hear you're going to medical school, man. That's incredible. That is incredible, and I'm happy for you as well. Um, how much time do you have, man? Can you give me about like 5 to 10 minutes, man? Would you like to hear a rundown if you don't mind sharing this feed? Um, I'm spilling the beans on patterns of public corruption as I have previously learned them. You're familiar with my reporting, but I've had time to pay attention and put things in order. And the people need to be notified. And the same things that I fell victim to on the East Coast, the same kind of conspiracy to cover up, the same kinds of things that are going on the West Coast. Um, so I came out here. You want to hear some history? Here it is. I came out here and I started hanging around a very prominent, popular, scene, long-standing um, area for a lot of hippies, a lot of tourists. And if you know a little bit about me, you know, um, I've lived alternatively. So I came out here and lived out of a backpack for a little bit, and I started to make a bunch of friends. I knew people here already. A friend gave me a couple pieces of property that he needed to get rid of, and he offered them to me. And I was going to keep one and gift the other. These two items totaled $1,300 in equity of material property. Well, after I received them, they were stolen from me by a police officer out here. And I mean, just like directly stolen. I'm not going to give a name, okay, but all of it's on my TikTok. Um, Now, 2 hours after the crime occurred, where he criminally solicited somebody else to run off with my things, we remember this from the RV stuff, right? Same patterns, man. Follow this carefully. This cop stole these from me without any paperwork attached. I was not cited. They weren't illegal. They were not contraband. So you just can't do that. All right. But out here in sunny California, they certainly do. And this is a big operation. Um, so these two items were stolen. I made a stink to 911 dispatch, and then the company that was solicited to take my things, also city company. Um, they came back 2 hours later, dumped them off on me like, here's your stuff. We wash our hands of this, right? The very next day, the next morning, I wrote on one of the items, tagging it, this item was previously stolen by an SFPD officer. I gave the name and I said, this is a dirty pig. And lo and behold, he pops up with a partner and he wants to investigate me for being returned to my property, right? And I'm flabbergasted. And I'm not going to answer you. I'm not feeding his investigation. Look, I'm investigating you for robbing me yesterday. So as I'm giving questions, making statements, and he's agreeing to a few things, he's acknowledging what he did the day prior and also implicating himself by running his mouth. He let his ego get in the way. And that second day, when I baited him, he stole those two items again, soliciting the same city company to run off with my things. Now, because I had threw a stink the day prior, I tried to do it again. They weren't having it. So I explained to them I'd be coming down the next morning to pick up my property. Well, I spoke with the individual. I can't say the name because I'm on another platform over here, and that's going to really tear things up. I spoke with another individual that works in that company that explicitly checks in all the items that come in off those trucks. He explicitly did not see my items come in that day. So it can be speculated that they were further stolen from a city employee, another city employee who was with custody over it, who did not transfer those items into the custody of the business that's ran by the city that they're legally required to and as employee required to. So I was robbed 2 days in a row. Okay. Properties now gone. I'm dealing with the ACLU. There's an administrative complaint in with the city over these two items. And as a victim of felony crime that's occurred, I've been chasing a report against this officer. That day he committed the crime, I called 911 and they didn't send the officers to investigate because when they did, that one that robbed me told them to leave and not investigate. So coming back full circle to the same patterns, um, it's very important because now I'm at a loss of property. Now the ACLU has an administrative complaint in, and when the ACLU gets involved, their fingers are very sticky. So years ago, the Department of Public Works, they were involved in a major lawsuit regarding stealing property off of people. And when DPW had this suit in federal court against them, and they had been deemed liable for stealing property, there were restrictions and implementations federally imposed against DPW to handle the items that they're taking in a certain way. And they're not even following the restrictions the federal courts imposed on them. So, what the police officers in San Francisco are doing out here, they're doing exactly what I've recorded multiple times. They're robbing people under threat of arrest to relinquish property that's not illegal, it's not contraband, and they're criminally soliciting DPW to come make off with those items and destroy them, make them disappear. And that's a racketeering criminal conspiracy in itself involving two or more people over stolen property and then depriving rights for the return of stolen property to make it disappear. That is a racketeering criminal conspiracy in itself by definition that would be dealing with stolen property and how it's not returned and the rules of law would be subverted. We're just going to ignore the rules of law. They don't exist based off of who and what's being reported. So, it shows a rules for the criminal justice system, but not for me. So ever since I've been trying to report that police officer referred to in special investigations, nobody wants to take the report against the police officer. And that's when I decided I'm going to take this information and evidence to the district attorney's office and record me on camera submitting it to them and over to them in a chain of custody recorded on camera. So I have handed it over to one of the agent staff in their office and then discussed about it to multiple other agents and staff in the office. And all of them fall deaf, dumb, and blind on the situation. So they want to continue prosecuting people in our class of citizenry and grind us out like we're sheep, running us through the system like cattle. And I ain't having it. That's why I'm doing the best I can to bring my reporting here and to share it to you guys to let them know that these government agents are subverting the rules of law to criminally protect each other. So you want to know how there's no transparency. You want to know how things are just corrupted and we are where we are today. It's because the same criminal patterns that are have presented themselves, that have been ingrained in the system, they're not just really disclosed on, they're not reported on. And people need to become aware because throughout my reporting in the criminal justice system, throughout the executive branch, I met with a basic script by these agents trying to report this police officer for felonies. And it is as follows. Okay, hold on 1 second. I have a telephone number to give you. Okay, hold on. You got a pen? It's for police accountability. Can you take the number? No, no, I don't want to take the number. I actually intend and want to intend on keeping my criminal complaint on a police officer within the criminal justice system. At no point in time do I want the rules of law that are clearly established to be subverted in a criminal conspiracy involving two or more in an attempt to steer my crime report outside of the criminal justice system. Why would we do that? You know, never is it a good time to subvert the rules of law. But oh, wait, we forgot. It depends on who and what you're reporting. So when it comes to reporting a police officer, they don't want to take the criminal complaint. And this is why cops continue to excel in their careers. And this is why they have qualified immunity. Okay. But it goes beyond qualified immunity. It's subversive activity implemented by agents in the system that would put up a big blue wall and shield them with a big blue umbrella in the event you go to report them for crime. So they keep steering reports on government agents and corrupted police officers outside of the criminal justice system. And what it takes is a major public outcry. Somebody's got to get beaten. Somebody's got to get unalived. There's major events that we're familiar with where there's major public outcry. But in these smaller cases, these same patterns that have been implemented have deprived the victims their rights. And when you, as a victim of a government agent's crime, knock on the door of the criminal justice system and somebody answers and said, take your crime report elsewhere. I'm sorry, agent. You're defrauding the populace. You're acting insubordinate of the rules of law. And I would go as far as to allege that if I give you a report and hand you evidence, you would become a criminal accessory, fraudulently concealing and criminally obstructing the evidence and report that was given to you. Because these are common patterns. And this is what I'm trying to teach people. And it's very important we get this information out there because there's victims of government agents crime all throughout the board. I know I'm not the only one who's been robbed by a police officer with no paperwork attached. You know, like under threat of arrest, throw me in the cage. I've been thrown in the cage several times. Like, how many cases have I been prosecuted for where there's been convictions? Just a couple. Just a couple. You're literally looking at somebody who appealed a case into a higher court and then withdrew their appeal to take the lower court's guilty. I decided to withdraw an appeal because of the corruption that presented itself into the higher court surrounding my defense attorney that was rogue and insubordinate of truly acting and representing me in his best interest, in my best interest. They will play us like a puppet. The whole system plays us like puppets. And here I am becoming a real man saying, hey, you guys are puppets. You're being played by these masters with strings, and this is exactly how they're playing. In the moment, you can't report a cop and have them investigated and apprehended and tried for a crime. Makes you wonder, what kind of system are we running here? Fun fact, we ain't running no system. They run the system. And I believe our country had been long ago usurped by people who are bad actors, who are acting in concert, colluding in these conspiracies, acting in subordinate of law. I believe our country has been straight hijacked, local, state, federal. On TikTok, I have my report given to an FBI agent about the subversive incubator that I'm reporting, about the subversive activity, where my reports they're trying to push outside the criminal justice system. And you know what I tell these agents that have the duty, the authority, and jurisdiction to investigate? Arrest me. If you think I'm making false reports and giving false statements to a law enforcement officer about alleged crime, arrest me. Not one of them want to put the cuffs on these wrists and try to say I'm making false reports and giving false statements because I'm telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So these taxpayers out here, these registered voters that keep funding and keep perpetuating the same problems, keep doing the same patterns in the system that would bring about no change. They're our demise. 60% of the US is reading at below a sixth grade level. So that's adults. They're reading below a sixth grade level. And our schools are failing us. Schools failed me, but look at me. I'm not a fool. I didn't get wrapped up in the same indoctrinated cycles that most of my other classmates did. The hell with that. No, man. I would have gone into the military, but then I realized now they could have never paid me enough. Every branch called me back in the day and wanted me in their system. No. You know what I told the Navy? I said I joined the Army. You know what I told the Army? I joined the Marines. You know what I told the Air Force? I joined the Army. And they quit calling me. Glad I dodged those bullets on that one. So, being an investigative journalist from being a crime victim has yielded a world of good. Where I'm at right now in life is with my reports going subverted at the DA's office, at the police department, with my whistleblower complaints going obstructed. Who knows where they're going to? Today, I just found out that according to some code 4.123, very interesting, whistleblower complaints are private, so they're not subject to records requests. But I will tell you all right now, I recorded a call with consent of an employee who I spoke with at 311, and I was explicitly given consent to record the call that was also being recorded. And I asked them at the end of the call to double that report as a records request and get that back to me. And I have all this information piling up, and I'm looking for a paralegal and I'm looking for a lawyer. Not many lawyers touch cases and work with cases of racketeering, but I think the right one, when introduced with the knowledge that there is a literal public criminal conspiracy embedded as a subversive incubator throughout the offices in San Francisco, where government agents within the criminal justice system throughout the executive branch would be getting call reports on their own agents that work within, and they would be taking those crime reports and steering them outside of the criminal justice system. That is not legal. That is not lawful. And right now, I'll cover the name. I'm dealing with a lieutenant within the DA's office, right? Who's emailed me, and I'm going to publish all that soon. And this lieutenant within the local DA's office, it's not going to be hard to find out who the lieutenant is if anybody looks around here in San Francisco. But this lieutenant told me that they're going to be referring my complaint into an administrative process called police accountability. They're going to be subverting the rules of law that are clearly established, well written, and they're going to be acting in lieu and insubordinate of them in an effort to protect the assailant who works within the same system as them. Okay, I'm making that very clear. So, in her email, she had said she was going to refer it to that administrative process that is outside of the criminal justice system. So, I replied, long winded, reiterating, you guys know how I do. Okay, I do reiterate, I use big words, I clearly articulate what's going on. Most people can't wrap their fingers around it. Most people shut down when you talk about this stuff because most people have fell victim to systemic betrayal. So, as far as the patterns of corruption, you need to be privy to these. So, this lieutenant investigator, I emailed back and I said at the end of the email, reiterating a few times, I'm going to need you to supply me with the section code or the statute or the ordinance that gives you lawful legal jurisdiction as a badged official to steer this crime report outside of the criminal justice system. So I haven't got an email back yet. That has been a week now. Okay. Remember the can't hear, can't see, the willful blindness. That's what I'm going to fall victim to right now. No more contact for no good reason other than I checked the bad little piggy. Okay. And when you check the bad piggies and you let the bad piggies know that they're breaking the law, they run away, they scatter like cockroaches. Okay. And you've seen it in my videos. So, what I'm going to do now that the DA's office wants to criminally cover for a cop, I've had my files available on TikTok for download, and anybody could share those with their friends. You need to tip your friends off and say, hey, there's this guy on TikTok in San Francisco that's reporting on local corruption where they're criminally covering for a police officer, and he's exposing it, showing clear, irrefutable evidence of their crimes and their conspiracy to subvert rules of law that are well established and steer these reports into a comment box. Okay. While they're grinding us all out, our people, they're grinding us out. But their people, they're reserving the right. Just, we don't see it, we don't hear it. We're going to ignore it. And then when people like me come out and say this is going on, people that come across me might be dismissive and be like, well, it's just him. No, no, it's not just me. This is a careful, implemented, and embedded criminal conspiracy and network embedded in the government of San Francisco right now that extends from the bottom of the police in the executive branch all the way into Mayor Lurie's office, where his secretaries would also be steering this complaint that needs to stay within the criminal justice system, most explicitly in the executive branch of government. She's following the same script. They're following the same script, subverting these reports outside into police accountability. Well, if these vets of retired police officers and their investigations and police accountability find out that crimes occurred, remember, these people don't have badges, so they're not versed in law. They're administrative offices, but they're retired around cops or cops, and they know exactly how to criminally cover for cops. So, who better to implement in these administrative offices than retired police officers and personnel surrounding? So, the lieutenant at the DA's office who wants to circumvent rules of law that are clearly established and steer crime reports outside of the criminal justice system when they're coming in on police officers, guess who she is? 19 plus year veteran, duty cop. She has seen a lot. She has covered for her coworkers a lot. So much that when I was addressing her prior to her sending this email, putting up that big blue wall, the blue wall of silence, big blue wall of silence. She had this paper in her hand and I eyeballed it. and I saw the letters DPA, and it was a flyer. I think she brought the flyer down from the office that they give these people to want to try to forward me and my crime report outside the criminal justice. She was holding a flyer. And I asked her, I said, ma'am, when is a good time to circumvent the rules of law for people reporting felony crime and try to steer these felony reports outside the justice system? And this retired cop, lieutenant investigator in the DA's office, she couldn't answer me. And we know why. Because I'm blowing the whistle. That's why. And at the moment where you have a smart individual reporting on the most common criminal patterns of behavior brought on by government agents, blowing the whistle to government agents, you're going to encounter the deaf, the dumb, and the blind 10 times out of 10. So if you review my material backing up, I get loud, I get excited. Now, when I get loud and excited, I'm still as grounded as I was before. But I'm able to clearly articulate in the best manner exactly what's occurring. And it is their worst nightmare because as of right now, whenever I see cops mess with my people, with my class of citizenry out here in this world that are not protected under their blue umbrella by their big blue wall, I'm going to be getting excited and animate, exposing and making a report pertaining to the corruption while their cameras are hot. This is going to do two things. For the victim that should have half a brain, they should listen because they're going to be stuck to something. The victim of their shit, whatever that is. But when I make the report, when these cops are making these stops from a distance, exercising my right to free speech on the cop that the DA is covering for, it's going to do two major things. This is going to screw up the case for the district attorney when they review the footage because they're going to know exactly who I am because I'm going to give my name. And they're going to be hearing this in the background audio. So they're going to scramble. Oh, crap. We got this guy making a report on one of their stops, two of their stops, 4, 5, 10 of their stops. The cases they're going to be forced to drop because they cannot prosecute people actively criminally covering for cops, especially when they bring them cases every day. You can't have your cake and eat it too like that. I won't let them because I know exactly what they're doing. These courts are corrupted. The DA's office recently threw a case of mine that I was trying to have introduced in front of a trial. They don't try cases like this for very good reason. It's unconstitutional, the law that's imposed that would deprive people the ability to sit and rest on a sidewalk in a non-obstructive manner during certain hours of the day that they can do after hours. So what they can do later, they can't do now. Free speech to body language. Sidewalks are a long-standing, legally long-standing, a public forum to soapbox. They're gentrifying the streets out here, criminally operating, engaged in racketeering against people who are exercising rights to public property. I just heard that there's a bill introduced right now in the state to implement felony arrests to occur on people that are living on the street and throw them in jail for 6 months at a time. Because of cases like mine that don't get to go up and get thrown out in front of a jury where jury would rule in my favor because they don't normally try cases like that. They're not collecting the data of the numbers for cases like that. Nobody's fighting them. Everybody's tapping out in submission because people don't know what rights they have. And the system's imposing a scheme as if we don't have them. So being in the state now, living where ground zero occurred for MK Ultra programs, It's very important to understand this place is a circus. It's a straight circus. I just found out recently they rigged up the Golden Gate Bridge back in the 50s. I think it was the 50s, just like they rigged up low income housing in St. Louis, Missouri. And they sprayed people with toxins, biohazardous materials. I said MK Ultra, people might be listening. Fun fact, I do frequent the United States' most oldest free clinic, and it is in the same area where the Manson family did their thing and the hippies were around. And that clinic also was participating in giving away free things that are now illicit substances. So there's a history out here, and I've seen naked guys in the morning in a certain district in this area go sit at a bus stop in a chair in a public area with tables, just spread eagle, get in the sun, but facing a bus stop where a bunch of children were loading a bus, making no effort to cover. And that is legal. That is legal here. Okay. Um, there's a lot of biological modifications going on out here in the name of medicine, gender changing. I'm not going to go into that. But backing up where there are these patterns of rights erosions, where I can prove criminal conspiracy in government, where I can show that they're not bringing certain cases and allowing victims of unconstitutional racketeering ordinances, and they're not allowing us justice. So when these corrupted bad actors have planted themselves in the government for so long, they can basically cook the books, make the laws in efforts to protect them in the event they go on to commit future crimes. There's no better way to do it. That's how they do it. These politicians that are elected, they're the kings that people march against, that protest. We don't want kings. Yeah, your right to representation as an individual ends when you elect somebody to represent your district, represent somebody to elect, or to as an elected to represent your jurisdiction. Um, your right to representation ends. These people on the councils, they're corrupted. They're getting their pockets padded by people who are trickling in with corporate money from the corporations. All the councils are bought off, man. And see, the thing about us is as they've designed the system to breed retarded workers, we have now a whole bunch of people who are stupid, who need enlightenment, that are the strength in numbers. However, they are counterintuitively working against us because a country for the people, of the people, by the people, but the people are retarded. What are you going to do with that? Well, you're going to let people come in and take control of you, and you're going to say, thank you for the freedoms. The freedoms. I don't want freedoms. I don't want freedoms. I don't want the idea that I'm free with domination presiding over it. Why do I need to have those two words split and joined together? Freedom? Why can't we just be free? And then if we were free, that would be a whole lot more empowering than just believing that we have these freedoms, because those are issued to us. And I'm really over it. I'm really over the corruption, east to west, from local, state, and federal jurisdictions. So my live on TikTok just got restricted for hate speech and hateful behavior, probably because I used the R word. And by definition, um, retarded was used. So I'm being flagged. Yep. So, by definition, it was used. And to the viewers out there who are butthurt over that, I'm not going to apologize. That's your problem. Your feelings got hurt. I'm engaged in free speech on a public platform that is privately owned but open to the public. Okay. Now, this is a prime example of what I believe to be a corporation operating in contempt and insubordinate of my constitutional right for free speech. Because if I use the word retarded and I'm flagged for free speech and the algorithms are going to be screwed and I'm going to be taken off because I use the word retarded, that is a direct threat to my right to free speech because, one, I'm referring to the growth that is overall stunted by the populace psychologically. Okay. By definition, sorry you do not like that, feelings people. But if I didn't break the law, leave my account alone because I'm not coercing anybody to do anything, not instructing people, I'm not providing misinformation. But God forbid, God jumps on here and uses the word retarded by definition. All right. So on YouTube, I'm still going right now on TikTok. They have just shadow banned me and removed my live access for 3 days. So this is the part of coming out and I do not agree with the decision. My live does not contain. I wonder if they'll let me appeal it, which they probably won't. Submit appeal. Submit. All right, so yeah, this is a part that would deprive free speech. Um, yeah, it's taken offline. All right, so I guess I'll wrap that up. And I'll wrap that up here. I think I did a good job. It's kind of interesting. YouTube is going to allow me my free speech. So yeah, let's end the stream.